Hey everyone! So February has been a special month. Because of Chinese New Year, I had a whole month to go backpacking. First, I got on a high-speed train in Changsha. Chilling right now on our way to Shenzhen. I'm gonna take the metro into Hong Kong. So this small river here pretty much marks the divide of China on that side and Hong Kong on that side. We're finally in Hong Kong, yo! Hong Kong is definitely a city of like wealth, business, and opulence. It's definitely got this like super unique urban feel that reminds me of New York City. Being surrounded by people who speak Cantonese instead of Mandarin was a little bit of a challenge, but it totally did not stop me from trying things like dim sum and other great Cantonese foods. I then flew to Taipei in Taiwan and did a lot of exploring and of course eating. Tai Fung, these are by far the best dumplings I've had so far. First, I took a train to Jiufen, which was one of the main reasons I wanted to visit Taiwan. It's a small town situated right on the side of a mountain, and it's really famous for its street food and small shops. There's just so many different vendors and so much activity going on. Jiufen is also the inspiration for my favorite movie, Spirited Away. The narrow streets all resemble the beginning of the movie, and I got the chance to visit the Ameson house, which is the inspiration for the bathhouse in Spirited Away. Jiufen has such amazing landscapes. The mountains are just so picturesque, and all the people there are really nice. I also visited Shinbeitou and checked out some Taiwanese hot springs. And then afterwards, I went to the Shilin night market, which has some of the best street food in Taipei. I checked out more of Taipei's spiritual side when I visited the Longshang Temple. At the temple, they had these extremely well-lit and beautiful pillars that all had tiny statues of them that glowed. I was just so awestruck to see people worshiping and praying, and to just know that there's so much culture in such a tiny space. After being in the city for a while, I wanted to experience more of Taipei's natural beauty. We are out to Hualien to go see Taroko Gorge. Alright, gonna try some of this wasp alcohol. Wow, it's smooth. Really smooth. I also visited the Sun Moon Lake. It's a giant lake essentially surrounded by temples, forests, shops, restaurants. Hendrix and I made some new friends there. They were super friendly, and it was definitely great to have people who speak Chinese. All over the Sun Moon Lake are these picturesque views of fog and boats. We took a cable car to an Aborigine village and got the chance to see some locals do a performance. We also got the chance to go back a bit in history and see how the Aborigines lived before. We're about to get on this carnival ride called the Caribbean Splash. We're going up, 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 up. I then took a flight to Japan, which I was so excited for. I've wanted to visit Japan since I was 8 years old, so I went in with the whole plan already. Here it is right now, Tokyo, in some random alley, looking for food. On the first night, my friend Dustin and I found a super cool conveyor belt sushi restaurant. I stayed in the Shinjuku area of Tokyo, which is super busy and there's always so much to do. Right now in Memory Lane of Shinjuku, and these are all the local izakayas of the area. The izakayas in Japan are famous for serving beers, barbecue, and soba noodles. You can think of izakayas and Memory Lane as kind of like being the nightlife of Japan. You know how we do it? It's Japanese curry at about 3 in the morning, and Dustin sipping on that soup. Dustin sipping on that soup.
It's so delicious.
Shinjuku also has some really cool theme restaurants.
I'm about to catch my own dinner right now. I'm going in.
We also visited an Alcatraz themed restaurant, and our table was an actual jail cell. All the food and drinks were Halloween themed, so we definitely got our own laughs out of that. I also visited Shibuya. We are now at the famous crosswalk intersection of Japan. And then I also went to the Meiji Shrine. It's a super natural area right in the middle of Tokyo that pays homage to the Meiji era. It attracts both the locals of Tokyo and also tourists from all over the world. One of the things I loved about Japan was seeing advertisements for some of my favorite video game characters right on the street. It blew my mind to see Lightning from Final Fantasy as the face of Louis Vuitton in Tokyo. Japan is super famous for how well its railways function. We took the Shinkansen, or high-speed train, out to the Japanese countryside. So here we are right now, way out in the countryside in Hira Furukawa. It's a small little town, really famous for its nature and landscapes. It's not a place that gets a lot of foreign tourists, so people were just super curious and always, of course, super friendly. Most of the locals kept asking me how I even knew about the place and were just so surprised to see a Westerner in this tiny town. Hida is famous for having the Satoyama, or natural landscapes of Japan. The town is filled with so much culture. Hayao Miyazaki visited the town a few times to draw some of the natural landscapes for his films. Hida is definitely what I consider to be like the real Japanese experience. You get a chance to delve into the Satoyama, the natural landscapes, and also experience the rural life. Hida is also famous for their amazing irrigation system. The water is so clean that you can just drink right from the stream. We then visited a local izakaya there and had some delicious food and sake. So here we are in Hida, trying some local sake. Best sake I've ever had. We also spoke to some of the locals, and of course just ate all the delicious food. Dustin and I also found a pachinko place, which is a gambling game, and Dustin just got super lucky.
And I just made 4,000 yuan.
We then went for a drive through what I can only describe as a winter wonderland. We had our own guide named Hiro who took us snowshoeing through the rice fields and forests of Hida. I was definitely blown away by the snowy mountainous views. It was so cool to watch the snow just like gently fall from the trees, and it's just such a peaceful place. Finally, a super nice lady invited us into her traditional Japanese home for some tea. The house was over 150 years old, and it's an experience that I don't think I'd get anywhere else. I then took a biking and walking tour with my tour guide Hisa, and he showed me some of the local farms and temples. The architecture of the buildings was super interesting, as all of the buildings don't have screws. Instead, the pieces of the building fit together like puzzle pieces, and that's how they don't fall apart. After Hida, I headed back to Tokyo and visited Asakusa. It's a great place to visit a famous temple and also do some shopping. I had the chance to make my own ukiyo-e, or woodblock painting, which I wanted to do to pay homage to my favorite artist, Hokusai. I also visited Akihabara, which was one of my favorite places in Japan. Here it is right now, Akihabara, anime center of the world, and I am in heaven. Akihabara has stores, arcades, manga, and of course all the best anime characters that I grew up with when I was a kid. Definitely have never been more excited in my life. I visited the Sega Center and played some video games. The gaming culture in Japan is unlike anywhere else in the world. Their arcade games are really high-tech and a lot of fun. I then visited the Gundam Cafe, which was a show that I watched when I was a kid. And I also visited a cat cafe. I also went to a famous ramen restaurant called Koshinbo Ramen, owned by Rie Nozu. Here we are now at Rie Nozu's ramen shop. And I also visited the Tsukiji Fish Market. It's a super famous seafood market that has some of the best seafood in Japan. We have some of the best unagi in the world. That's amazing. So here we are now, Mount Fuji. After visiting Fuji, I went to Kyoto and visited the Fushimi Inari Shrine. I walked through the famous Thousand Torii Gates, and it was such a cool experience. Kyoto also had this beautiful bamboo forest and also an old-school imperial palace with people wearing traditional kimonos. One of my favorite parts of Tokyo was the robot show. We all got to pilot our own robots, and we had front row seats to the show. Robot show! It started out very cultural and then started to change to more of a sci-fi kind of feel. Oh my god! After a while, it got so ridiculous that I didn't even know what was going on, but the show was still really exciting. So here we are right now, Thailand. Moped riding through Krabi, heading to the national park. I climbed the waterfall at the national park and went swimming. I took the less beaten path and ended up where there are no tourists at all. It's a beautiful day. I also visited the famous beach in Krabi with some friends that I made. After Krabi, I headed to Koh Lanta, which is a super quiet island filled with mostly honeymooners. It's a quiet island with these super peaceful and serene beaches. Chilling at Bamboo Beach. I met up with my two friends, Sarah and Wansa. and we had such an awesome, unforgettable time. Shout out to you guys in Shijiazhuang. At night, we hung out on the beach and watched an epic fire show. I spent my last day in Koh Lanta scuba diving and had such an unreal experience.
So my holiday is officially over and it's time to head back to China.
So that was my experience for the month of February. Thank you guys for watching, and as usual, I'll post another video up next month. Love you guys. Peace.